Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks very much for tuning in. Again, my name is Jay Ferguson, and appreciate everybody who's been following along and liking and subscribing to these little videos about records that I've been making over the past few months. The last video I did was sort of mostly, well, it was completely about like recent finds. I didn't have a real central theme, but I accumulated some cool records, and I thought I'll do that. So continuing on that trend, this one is recent finds number 2. It's kind of it's almost like with spring coming around, it's almost like record fair season is starting again. And there's been a number in, sort of around where I am in Toronto, like within Toronto and even outside of Toronto. And I found a couple of cool things at local shops and stuff. So this doesn't have a real, musical theme or anything like that. So it's just a lot of sort of random records that I thought were kind of interesting that I found at record fairs or out in the wild. I have a few other video ideas that I might try and do, either records about a particular band or a certain category, and I got to put my mind to those. But for now, I thought I'd just sort of try and make a little bit of a grab bag, random, recent finds kind of video. So I'm going to start off with some stuff, a few 7-inch singles that I found that I was happy about. There was a recent record fair here in downtown Toronto that's hosted by a couple of gentlemen I've mentioned before, Aaron and Akeem, and they've been doing record fairs for many, many years, and theirs is one of the best in the area, of course. And one of the singles that I found was something that I've been looking for quite a while. I'm a fan of Robin Hitchcock and his, who's been a solo artist for 40 plus years, but in the late 70s and into the early 80s, he was in a band that he was the primary songwriter for, called the Soft Boys. And this is their second 7-inch single, which I've been looking for a while. It's called I Want to Be an Angle Poise Lamp, that was released on Radar Records in 1978. There's the front cover, designed by Barney Bubbles, who is a very well-known, I don't know if he was well-known at the time, really, but he was he did so much work for this label, Elvis Costello Records, Chlo Records, some stuff on Stiff Records, and also this label Radar, and later on a label called F-Beat, for many, many artists. And he's really proven, although he passed away in the 1980s, he's really proven to be an influence on graphic design as it moved forward through the 90s and the 2000s, and wonderful artist. And this is one of the sleeves he designed. That's the front cover there. And the back cover, Fat Man's Son, is the B-side. I'll show you the label. I know that people like to see the labels. It's the typical Radar, once again, Barney Bubbles designed label. Same on both sides. And Soft Boys sort of bounced around to different labels during their very, very short career. And this one, I just don't see it turn up very often, so I was very happy to find it. Again, sort of eccentric, I don't know if I'd even call it power pop, even though you could sort of fit it into that category. Eccentric melodic rock. He obviously loves his eccentric late 60s British rock, a la Pink Floyd or Soft Machine and the Beatles, of course, and things like that. But this is a great example of his fantastic early songwriting. Very happy to find that. And like I said, it was on the Radar Records label that didn't last for very long. It also, other acts on the roster were Elvis Costello and Chlo at the time. They jumped from Stiff Records and they went to Radar Records. And strangely enough, this label only lasted a couple of years. And the fellow who started the label, Andrew Lauder, he eventually started another label called F-Beat, which Elvis Costello and Chlo eventually went to. The Soft Boys did not. But anyhow, that's just a little random background on that label. But anyhow, very happy to find the Soft Boys' second 7-inch single, I Want to Be an Angle Poise Lamp. The next record I found, and the next 7-inch single I found, was found at a local store, and it's a Toronto band that I knew nothing about. They only released 3 7-inch singles, and this was their very first one that they released in 1980, and the band is called Chlo, K-L-O, with the accent there, so I believe it's pronounced Chlo. Please leave a comment if I'm mispronouncing that, perhaps as usual. Like I said, this was released in 1980, and I think the word Chlo is Icelandic for claw or talon. So I'm making an assumption that's where they took their band name from, but it could very well be. The single is called No Money, that's the A side, and the B side is called The Parking Lot Song. It's punk. I guess you could say it's post-punk, being about 1980 or so, but really, I don't know how you would describe the guitar playing, very disjointed, wild guitar playing, almost a la Robert Quine, who played in Richard Hell and the Voidoids. And I'd even put this single, especially the A-side, No Money, that's fantastic, in that kind of almost like angular, disjointed, or take on punk that the Voidoids sort of became known for, especially on the Blank Generation record. And great lyrics, and it's got an awesome chorus that just kicks in that just says "No Money" over and over, and cool lyrics. Anyhow, that's the front of the record, and the back just has a number of credits. And the label is very simple. It was on Pattern Records at the time. Looks like that. And the B-side for the Parking Lot Song. Now, the band was made up of Christopher Butterfield on guitar and lead vocals, Philip Butterfield, I assume his brother, on guitar and vocals, Alan Nagel on bass and vocals, and he's the one who wrote No Money. I don't know if he sang it, but it does say vocals, so perhaps. But no, it does say Christopher Butterfield on lead vocals, so we'll assume he sang it. And Rick Sachs on drums. But anyhow, incredibly cool single. Let's listen to a second of it for one, shall we?
Silver bracelets and ruffled shirts show us all how much you're really worth. Dinner at noon and supper at 8. Sorry, but eating out is just not my fate. 'Cause I ain't got no money. I ain't got no money. I ain't got no money. No money. I'm yours, honey. Saturday's time to shop around town.
Yeah, anyhow, do you know what I mean by that? Does it sort of sound like that late New York Voidoids kind of sound? I sort of maintain, I bet you if this single had come out in New York in 1979 or 1980, it would probably be a lot more well-known, a lot more desirable, and probably a lot more expensive. But as it is, Toronto band, their debut single, like I said, they released a couple more singles later in the 80s, actually. They did one maybe 1983 and then one mid to late 80s. Both of them in the UK, and they sound a lot different than this. But anyhow, very happy to stumble across and learn about this. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed checking out No Money by Chlo. This is another thing. There was a record fair that I went to that had been going on for, I guess, a number of years, but I'd only recently learned about it. It's kind of in North York, and it's run by or the name is Campus Discs, I guess I should say. It was a record fair. I'd never been to it before, and I really enjoyed it. I found some cool things there, and one of the more interesting things that I found there, which was a 7-inch flexi disc. Another thing that I've been looking for quite a while, and I found this inexpensively, and I was, like I said, very happy to track it down. It's a Rolling Stones flexi disc. I'm a big Rolling Stones fan, and this came with the NME, the New Musical Express magazine in, April of 1972. And what it is, it was released before, or this flexi disc was released before Exile on Main Street by the Rolling Stones was released, and it was kind of a teaser. So, people who bought the latest NME could get this flexi disc and hear snippets of some songs that are on Exile on Main Street. But the cool thing about this is that it's not introduced by Mick Jagger or anything like that, but the flexi disc starts off with Mick playing a piano and playing a song, I think, that's called Exile on Main Street Blues, where he's just sort of vamping in the blues on the piano and making up a song as he goes along, using all the song titles for Exile on Main Street. And then they would cut in, snippets of some of the tracks from the album, and then it would go back to Mick just sort of playing, making up sort of a ridiculous blues song using song titles from Exile on Main Street. Anyhow, I'm a Rolling Stones collector. Very happy to find this. On the other side, let's see, it's Phantasmagoria, another artist, and then and another track as well. But anyhow, what I'm most excited by, of course, is the Mick playing the Exile on Main Street Blues song. You can also hear it on online, but let's hear a second of it right now too.
Exile on Main Street, people down. Now let it loose, now let it all hang down. Round up those people, move them out of town. Give me a little grace, love is come. Pick your hip, son, off your cup. Feeling so doggone happy.
There you go. Anyhow, really enjoyed finding that flexi disc. Little Exile on Main Street teaser that came with the NME back in 1972. And speaking, so I'm going to switch my notes. Speaking of the Rolling Stones, also at the Toronto Downtown Record Fair, I found a record that I guess you would classify as a unauthorized. I don't know if I'm allowed to use the B word here, but it's definitely an unauthorized recording of the Rolling Stones, recorded in 1977 here in Toronto at the El Macambo Club. They did a club show here in Toronto. I think they did 2 shows in one night or 2 nights, I forget, but they were both recorded. Some of the recordings, by the way, this is the cover. Mick and Keith putting in some hard work right there. And there's the back cover, Rolling Stones, El Macambo 77. I don't think this photo is the El Macambo, which is very in keeping with an unauthorized recording, that often the photos are wrong and sometimes the song titles are wrong as well. But I think this is a bit later. So am I supposed to say bootleg? But anyhow, this unauthorized recording came out in 1985, but as I said, it's a recording from 1977. Some of the recordings came out officially as one side of the Love You Live album, and then a few years ago, they decided to release, like a triple album of the majority of the El Macambo recordings. The only problem I had with that official release was the way it was mixed. They added a lot of reverb to the crowd and to the band and everything, and it doesn't sound like it was recorded in a club in front of 300 people. The recordings have been massaged and mixed to make it sound like it's in a much bigger venue, in my opinion. And I think that kind of takes away from the fun of it or the purpose of it. Anyhow, these recordings are way more, or on this unauthorized recording, are way more raw sounding, and it's cool. There's even a few songs that are taken from an acetate at the time, so they must have been, planning to release these at some point. And one of the cool tracks on here is Worried About You, which didn't show up until Tattoo You in 1981. Tattoo You is of course made up of some newer stuff, but also a lot of recordings they'd been working on in the 1970s, and they just finished them and put them on a record and released it as a new record. But Worried About You is one of those songs. So it's kind of cool hearing a live version way back here in 1977. I had not heard that before. They also do, Cracking Up, or Bo Diddley's song, Route 66, Dance Little Sister, which I didn't know they did at the El Macambo, which was a great track from Goat's Head Soup, I believe. Little Red Rooster as well, and some other tracks as well, which, anyhow, but the cover's great. It looks awesome. This would have been a great cover for the official El Macambo show, even though, is that from the El Macambo? I'm not even sure. Probably not, but whatever. Makes a great era photo. Anyhow, happy to find that at the Downtown Record Fair. I found this there as well. And I've always been a big fan of the Flaming Groovies, pop rock band from San Francisco, who started releasing records in the late 1960s and have gone through so many different phases of music of their career. And I have a number of the records. I think I have most of the records that I want by them, but I never had their debut full length, which is called Super Snaz. This is from 1969. That's the front cover. Very cute illustration, taken from the CKLW library, which I believe was like an AM station in Windsor, Ontario. Often I would find this record out in the wild, and it was always a little bit too expensive and kind of beat up. This cover has a little tiny bit of wear here and a little bit there on the back as well. But also there's a sticker there for demonstration use only. So it's kind of like a promotional copy, which is kind of fun to find. And the record is in beautiful shape. It looks like essentially CKLW basically filed this record away and never played it. It's on the late 60s Epic label for those folks who like to see the labels. And anyhow, I was very happy to find it for an exceptionally reasonable price. Wonderful record. It's kind of this era of Flaming Groovies is almost like their own, I guess I could say eccentric eccentric take on roots 50s rock and roll, or pre 60s rock and roll. And it's great, super rocking record. I really enjoy the music that they continued to make in the early 70s. They made, of course, the records Flamingo and Teenage Head, which it seemed like more it's like now they want to be the Rolling Stones, a much more leaner riff-based music, and those records are fantastic, especially Teenage Head. And then later in the 70s, they kind of morphed into more of a, I guess you could say, like a quasi, Anglophile power pop kind of band, and way more melodic and taking a lot from Mersey beat and the early to mid 60s kind of sound. So they kind of bounced around to of different trends, I guess you could say, or different types of music that they enjoyed either covering or taking from or whatever. But anyhow, I have those records, and now I have a nice copy of Super Snaz. So very happy to find that at the Downtown Record Fair. So anyhow, if you're not familiar, check that one out for sure. There's another, maybe it's not necessarily a trend, maybe it goes on all the time. And I've just been noticing more of them recently. Small little record fairs that are kind of taking place in either small, unique spaces or like a pub on an afternoon, like a weekend afternoon. And there was one, maybe about a month ago here in Toronto that I went to. It was about, 8 to 9 dealers. Some of them are just like record collectors who are probably, getting rid of some stuff from their collection, or there were people who maybe had a store, or not necessarily a store, but maybe are used to selling at record fairs or something like that. And it was a really nice down home event, and free to get in and everything like that. And I was really pleasantly surprised by a bunch of the things that I found, and one of them was a 12-inch single that I had been looking for quite a while. On the last episode I talked about how I found an original copy of the first Mark and the Mambas record. Mark and the Mambas, the Mark in that band being Mark Almond from Soft Cell, a band I really like, and Mark and the Mambas was his own sort of side project that was running parallel to Soft Cell. But the first 12-inch single that he released is right here. It's called Fun City. And there's the cover right there. I had been looking for this for a long time. It's quite rare. It's from about 1982. That's the front cover. On the back, you can see young Mark in the corner there. Fun City is the A-side, and the B-side is Sleaze, Take It, Shake It. And also an instrumental version called Taking It and Shaking It. So very, I guess you could sort of call it synth pop, but super minimal and rough sounding and very cool. From what I've read, this was apparently a fan club record. The fan club for who? I assume Soft Cell. But anyhow, I think there are only a couple thousand of these made, so I was happy to be able to find this here in Toronto. And the record labels look like this, a little bit of text, the song titles, and once again, young Mark Almond. There you go. Great, like I said, great kind of minimal synth pop kind of stuff. And I like his songwriting and his voice and everything like that. So I was very happy to track that down Mark and the Mambas, Fun City. Oh, the other thing that's sort of blurring the lines between this band and Soft Cell is that I believe Fun City actually ended up being released later on as a B-side for Soft Cell, even though it's not Soft Cell, or technically not. Anyhow, so anybody who's trying to keep track, thought I'd help out a little bit there. Speaking once again about Mark and the Mambas, I think, like I said, when I did the last episode, I was sort of mentioning, I'd love to find the certain 12-inch single, and I don't have the second album. Well, I found the 12-inch single I was looking for, and I ended up finding the second album at a local record shop a couple weeks ago for quite random. It's something I don't see often in the record bins here in Toronto, maybe once in a while. And in the past, I thought, I'll have to come back and get it, and I've slept on it, and then it was gone the next time I was there. So this time I saw it, I want to make sure I got it. This is the second, once again, a double album by Mark and the Mambas called Torment and Toreros on the Some Bizarre label. There's the front cover, the back cover of Mark, and also a very cool gatefold with all the credits and the song titles. And this is much more full band kind of record compared to the first Mark and the Mambas album, which is much more stripped back affair. A lot of drum machines. Some songs are just like Mark and Matt Johnson from the. But this is much more full band affair. Very, very theatrical and dramatic record. If you like certain records by, Nick Cave, for example, I think you might enjoy, or I don't know which era of Nick Cave. I don't know my Nick Cave very well, but some of the Nick Cave I think almost falls into this kind of category. I was reading it's a double record. I'll actually pull this out too. The just in these black sleeves, and all the labels kind of look just like this. The black kind of handwritten label, and there was an interview with Mark Almond talking about this record, and he said that this album is a nervous breakdown committed to vinyl. So there you go. If you wanted to hear what a nervous breakdown sounded like, maybe check out Torment and Toreros. But great songwriting, cool instrumentation, and very unique artist. And I think someone who just hasn't really, maybe he has had his due, and maybe people really do revere him, especially in England, but maybe not so much over here. But great songwriter, creative record maker. So I was very happy to find that randomly out in the wild as I spoke about them on the last little episode that I created. Maybe I should just talk about records I'm looking for on every episode, and then magically they'll materialize next time. I have one more record that I wanted to mention. Once again, I found this at the Downtown Record Show. And it's a record that for some reason, I don't know why, I didn't buy at the time when it came out. What was I thinking? This band is peers of our band, Sloan, and the name of the band is Eric's Trip. This is their second full-length record on Sub Pop called Forever Again. And I have some notes about it here. I should have done that quickly. It came out in 1994. Lovely sort of photographic collage on the front and on the back as well, and cool whatever center labels as well. Once again, sort of handmade cut and paste style. But Eric Strip is a band that our band Sloan, we would have met them in probably like late 1991 or early 1992. And I remember they were from Moncton, New Brunswick, and we were from Halifax, Nova Scotia. And they came to, we thought our band was pretty good. And I remember Eric's Trip came to Halifax, played a show, and we were like, oh my God, they blew us away. They're so fantastic. I think we felt a bit of a kinship with them for certain touch points of music back then, whether it be like Sonic Youth or Sebadoh and My Bloody Valentine and things like that. And we toured with them in the early days, and we've been friends with them for a long, long time. And our band's label, Murder Records, even released their first CD EP that was called Peter. And that came out in late 92, early 1993. And our band, we ended up signing to DGC Geffen, and Eric's Trip ended up signing to Sub Pop. And their first album, Love Terra, was fantastic, and I have that one on record. But the second album, Forever Again, I do not know why I do not have this on vinyl. So I was very happy to find it. And it's their records were all made basically on 4-track. Maybe eventually some were made on cassette, 8-track, but 4-track cassette. And I love the sound of Love Terra, and I enjoy the sound of this one. I find this one's even a little more dense and maybe even a little bit. It's harder to get into, but the songs are cool, and the recording is great, and sort of very, very personal songs. And I wanted to mention this also came with a poster that I thought I would highlight as well, and that was the extra thing that came inside. And again, sort of cool photo collage, if you can see it there with the fold, black and white side, and awesome, very cool color side collage. Eric Stripp went on to make one more full-length album for Sub Pop, and then they kind of called it quits, but they made so many 7-inch singles for different labels while they existed, and they also made a lot of side projects while they existed, and one of them being Elevator to Hell. So when they broke up, Rick White, who was one of the principal songwriters, sort of focused on Elevator to Hell, and then and continued to make records under the Elevator name, and then also records on his own name. And if you go to Rick White Bandcamp, you can see all of the stuff that he's been making in recent years. Some of them are EPs and full lengths, and some records where he's covering songs. And he even did a full length cover of our Peppermint EP, which is fantastic. I recommend you checking it out. And Julie Dwaron as well, the other principal songwriter in the band. Chris Thompson also wrote songs and under the name Moonsocket, but Julie Dwaron under the name Broken Girl and her own name made a number of records. But her her first two full-length records were recently reissued by Numero. How do you say it? Numero or Numero Group? Anyhow, I'm embarrassed I didn't research that at a time, but they reissued her first two records, which is great that they'll probably receive a wider audience, being on that excellent label, who do a lot of fantastic reissues, and also riding high from a lot of TikTok success of people out there covering particular Julie Dwaron songs. So it's great to see her getting the attention that she deserves. So it's wonderful to see her, and also Rick White, experiencing probably even more interest in the recordings than even when they were in Eric's Trip. I'm not sure how to, quantify that, but that could very well be the case. Anyhow, very happy to have Forever Again by my friends in Eric's Trip. Very embarrassing I didn't have that at the time. What was I thinking? Anyhow, that's all that I have. Those are just some cool recent finds, and I hopefully maybe you found some of them interesting as well. And also, please let me know if you have any of those records, or if you have any more information on any of those artists, or especially Chlo. I really know very little about that Toronto band. And please chime in, and also please feel free to follow or like and all of that good stuff. But either way, just appreciate you hanging out and watching. So hope you enjoyed that episode. Hope you enjoyed those records, and we'll see you again next time. So take care wherever you may be, and we'll see you again. All right, thanks.